What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today I wanted to showcase a Toxapex team here in the Color Cup. This is one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the entire meta. It has great coverage with poison and water type damage, able to take out the waters, the fires, the grass types just with its bulk and with its typing. And because of the fact that only Mud Boys and electric types are really its only threats in this meta, it pairs very well with grass types like Superior. If you want to see my battles live, I've stream almost every single day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, where you can see live insights into my gameplay and see my teams early. I'd love to see you there. The link to that is in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the battles and see what this team can do. All right, let's get right on into game number one. Superior in the lead up against a Shadow type Flosion. This Pokemon is not what you want to see as a Grass type here, but we have two Water types in the backline that can definitely deal with that pick. With that said, they come in with another answer here to our Kingdra. This is honestly one of the worst things we could see, not just because this is a bad matchup for Kingdra, but because it's also a bad matchup for our Superior, and it's a very good matchup for our Toxapex. They're already ABA weak to our Toxapex with this team. I would have to assume the final Pokemon is going to be some sort of answer to our Water and Poison type Pokemon in the backline, but at this point, I just have to hope that our Superior up energy can make something happen this game. With that said, Acrobatics would do a lot of damage. I am going to have to shield this up, despite the fact that there is a Shadow-type Flosion in the backline. I know that Frenzy Plant is a very hard-hitting move. Our opponent opts to throw a little bit early here. I know that's just going to be an Aerial Ace. I can let this go, farm them all the way down, have two Frenzy Plants loaded for that Shadow-type Flosion, and because of how squishy it is, they might actually be forced to start shielding. That comes in that Shadow type Flosion. I'm going to go for that Frenzy Plant just like I said. If this gets shielded, then I'm going to throw the next one. If it gets no shielded, maybe I'll swap to our Toxapex. In comes that shield, which is fantastic. I'm going to be able to throw yet another charge move here. Either get a massive amount of damage into this Typhlosion or get a shield. In comes that second shield. Two shields from resisted Frenzy Plants with our Superior into this Shadow type Flosion. That is exactly what you want to see as a Grass type. In comes a Thunder Punch, which is not exactly what I want to see. They have one Incinerate loaded, so they are one more Incinerate away from a charge move, and we see their final Pokemon is a Cradily. This Pokemon is not the best matchup for Toxapex because it obviously is going to just take neutral damage from poison type damage, being a rock and grass type, but it is not the worst case scenario. It's not a Gastrodon, it's not a Morpeko or something that's really, really bad for us, which means there is still a little bit of play. They are one Incinerate away from a Thunder Punch, so if I can use a catch as a win condition this game, I'm going to have to keep my eyes out on that, see if we can somehow make a catch this game. Our opponent is overfarming here. They don't quite get to the next move before I can knock them out with a Brine, and now I have to make the call. Do I make a catch, or do I just full send it and expect them to expect me to catch? I'm just going to go for it here. Our opponent trying to call the catch, but instead of throwing the charge move, I went and reached the Brine, knocked out the Typhlosion, and somehow took back that game. GG's to our opponent. All right, next matchup, Superior in the lead up against probably one of the worst matchups this team could see. Once again, the Shadow Abomasnow. If we can do anything with this, I need to safe swap with our Kingdra, try to chip it down into Aerial Ace range with our Superior, and then maybe draw shields in the backline so this isn't going to be quite as bad of a matchup. They're actually running Icy Wind, which is a crazy moveset on the Shadow Abomasnow, but it means that they're not going to get another move before us, or at least that's what I thought, until they did reach a move, which means they're running double Ice-type charge moves. They have no respect for a Toxapex with this moveset. They are running Icy Wind and Weather Ball Ice. That is crazy to me. Outrage is going to knock out. They don't want to shield at this point, and in comes their own Kingdra. With that said, Toxapex is going to be in a pretty decent matchup here. As long as the final Pokemon is not absolutely terrible for us right now, there is still some play for us this game. In comes the charge move, likely going to be an Outrage. I have to shield it up. It would do a massive amount of damage to us if I let it go. Luckily, no bait. And in the back, I'm going to be a Mudboy. This could be potentially winnable right now. Superior's Vine Whips are doing a lot of damage, but they have two shields to 0 right now. I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace bait. At this point, if it lands, I can probably Vine Whip all the way down, and if they shield that, then that's a great shield for us to see right now. We have energy on our Toxapex. As long as we can either take the next shield here or knock out this Quagsire, we should be in a very good spot. We're going for the Vine Whips here. We're going to try to land the move, but I blunder quite a bit here. I completely forgot. I lose CMP to Quagsire. They land the Stone Edge. That is a massive amount of damage to give over to our opponent, and at this point, I think I might have just lost the game by not throwing a little bit sooner, because now they don't have to shield this. They can let that go, come back in with their Toxapex or their Kingdra into our Toxapex, and now unless I can land this move through a shield or get a proper bait off, I won't be able to win this game. Our opponent, though, does just end up shielding up that Sludge Wave there, which is one of the worst things we could see, and they can CMP us on the Sludge Wave as well. That should have been a win. I definitely kind of forgot in the second that the Quagsire is able to win CMP against Superior. That's my bad. That could have been a win, but, you know, I guess that's just kind of the learning troubles with a team like this. Next game, we're going to see another Fire type in the lead. Can we please win a lead matchup here? Marowak is not what I want to see, but I do have two Water types in the back. With that said, Marowak is actually pretty decent into Toxapex due to the fact that Bone Club is super effective and so spammy against our Poison type Pokemon. In comes a Gastrodon to respond here. Honestly, I do see a bit of play for us, though, because Gastrodon is not a hard answer to Kingdra. I can survive a charge move, go for Outrage, and potentially draw a shield from them. And at this point, this is a massive farm down for a Superior if they're going to let us get that, which means that we will be able to have a lot of energy for that Marowak in the backline, which is good, because it's not like Toxapex is even a great answer to Marowak. I need to start chipping it down somehow, so by spamming out Frenzy Plants, I guess that is one way to do it. Earth Power ends up coming through and getting a defense drop here, which is not very fortunate for us, but we do farm them down before another Body Slam is going to be reached. And if that Marowak comes in, I'm going to try to chip them down here with a Frenzy Plant. We've seen how much damage this can do against other Pokemon that it shouldn't be able to do any damage into. It almost puts them at half health here this game, and in comes the final Pokemon. That is not looking good. A Shadow Quagsire, a complete RPS game, right? They are able to just hard counter us at every single corner, but Toxapex is going to try its best here. I know that if they're not running Mud Bomb, there's a chance we can double shield these Stone Edges with the energy lead that we have and the shield advantage. Maybe I can come out of this matchup with just enough HP and energy to knock out that Marowak, either with my Superior or with my Toxapex. In comes the next brine here. Let's see if they opt to shield this up. They do at this point. They might have been able to survive that, but they do want this Mudshot damage. It is chipping us down quite a bit here, and now we're in a very awkward position. Do they shield, or do they bait rather, or do they go for the nuke? They opted for the nuke, and we properly shielded up that move, which means that now this brine is going to knock them out right before they get their next Stone Edge, and when that Marowak comes in, they're going to be forced to throw 2 Charge Moves against our Toxapex, because they are the non-shadow using a non-stab Bone Club against us, and Toxapex is so bulky, it's not going to knock us out with 1 charge attack. They have to waste a ton of energy here, and at this point, the Poison Jabs have put them very low, but is this low enough to be in range where a Frenzy Plant could knock out this Marowak? It's a very bulky Pokemon. It's going to be extremely close. Can we reach the move? We do reach the move, but is this enough to KO the Fire-type Pokemon? I have to hope it is. At this point, we are out of options if it's not, but it KOs the Marowak, and we can win the game. GG's to our opponent. Next matchup, Superior. Finally, a good lead, the Gastrodon. This is exactly what we want to see. What are they going to bring in? They actually bring in a Fire-type Pokemon here, a Shadow-type Flosion, one of the scariest Pokemon in the game, just because of its pacing here. It's able to reach moves very quickly with these Thunder Punches, and I do resist the Incinerate damage quite heavily, but 2 Thunder Punches are still going to be enough to knock us out, that is. And this is not great because I do have to go down shields now. With that said, I have almost an Outrage loaded. I can come out of this matchup getting a full farm down here, and whatever they have in the backline does not want to take energy from a Kingdra at this point. If it is going to be a Gastrodon coming back in here, I'm going to go for that Outrage, try to chip them down as much as possible to make it so if potentially my Toxapex gets into this matchup here, a Brine could knock them out later on, or maybe just Vine Whips could KO this Gastrodon later on this game. They do Mud Slap us down, but that's fine. We've chipped down this Gastrodon quite a bit, and another Fire type in the backline. On paper, this is a hard RPS game. Grass, double water into ground, double fire. With that said, I am down shields, and Talonflame is well known for being able to flip this Toxapex matchup up any sort of advantage here. We can see that they do opt to shield that move, and because they overcome a little bit too much here, they have to throw on bad timing, go for a fly on alignment, giving us a full poison jab, and now this game is going to be very interesting. They're getting close to range where Aerialist could knock them out. I'm going to call yet another fly here. Luckily, no Braver coming through, and now I can reach this brine, get their final shield, and even if my Toxapex gets knocked out, I think we can reach an Aerialist with our Superior and KO this Talonflame with our Grass-type Pokemon. With that said, it's going to be a very dicey endgame here. Is Ace even going to be enough? It's a very weak move. Superior is not known for its damage output. Can we possibly win this game? They also have that Gastrodon in the backline right now, which could put in a little bit of work with the amount of energy that it has, but as long as we don't take a fly here, I think our Superior should be able to have this game in the bag. At this point, Gastrodon, no HP left over. I can Vine Whip all the way down. GG's to our opponent. Next matchup, Superior up against a Whimsicott in the lead. A very interesting lead matchup. Our Kingdra does not want to see this. Our Toxapex would much rather be here, but Superior is remarkably neutral just with the fact that you have Aerial Ace, and if you shield up the Moonblasts, you start outpacing it pretty heavily. With that said, in the 2-shield matchup, they are able to still land a Moonblast against you, and after the Fairy Wind buff recently, it should probably put us into range where Moonblast would knock us out the longer this matchup goes. I am going to try to shield. I don't think a bait is very likely here, which is a good thing that we do end up shielding because a Moonblast comes through. It does not do a ton of damage because of that shield, and comes our next Aerial Ace, likely either going to get a knockout or a shield back from the Whimsicott. With that said, this is once again going to be another call I have to make. Is this a bait? Is it a nuke? I'm going to expect another Moonblast. I want to keep our Superior healthy because if they're staying in this matchup, I have to imagine that Superior has play in the backline. With that said, fantastic catch from our opponent right now, catching on a more Morpeko. This, though, is not exactly the worst case scenario, because the thing about Morpeko is you are forced to throw electric type charge moves or psychic type charge moves into a superior on the first charge move that you throw. The second one would be a dark type move, but because of the way Morpeko works, I can just stay in here, survive an electric type Aura Wheel, and go for a Frenzy Plant after baiting them with yet another Aerial Ace. They made a nice catch on the first ace, I baited the second, and I just barely was able to reach this Frenzy Plant here before they were able to reach another charge move or knock out our superior. Now we have our Toxapex that can destroy this Whimsicott. We have a Kingdra that should be decent in the backline once this fairy type's out of the way, and comes a Unova Stunfisk. And the thing is, despite the fact it's kind of spammy, I don't think they can two-shot us because we are running the non-Shadow Kingdra. A Shadow Kingdra likely loses us this game, but the non-Shadow able to tank these moves quite a bit easier, reach this Outrage, and our opponent realizing not much they could do at that point. GG's to them. Next matchup, we're going to see a Ferrothorn in the lead. A very neutral matchup here. You might expect it to be very good for our superior because we have the neutral Aerial Ace and they're throwing only resisted damage. But honestly, it's not as good as you might expect. It's kind of annoying in the Zero Shield matchup. But they do instantly swap out here to a Marowak. They go for a Shadow Bone and get a defense drop, which is not amazing for us right now. I'm going to go for Octazooka. I'm not sure if this is quite enough to KO at this point, but I know even if it's not, we can get the farm down here and take out this Marowak. We are able to take them out before another charge move's reached. In comes that Ferrothorn, and if I can reach an Outrage, that's going to do massive damage to this Steel-type Pokemon. This is honestly probably going to do more damage than an Aerial Ace would do, more damage than anything my Toxapex could throw as well, so landing this Outrage is a massive amount of damage. That's basically range now, where an Aerial Ace or a Sludge Wave plus some fast moves could take out Ferrothorn. In the backline, going to be another fire type, another double fire team, and because we have the double water types, we are able to bring in our Toxapex and hopefully neutralize this matchup. With that said, they have energy on Ferrothorn, and if they can get out of this matchup, combo play us with that Pokemon after drawing 2 shields with this Typhlosion, this game could get a little bit scary. Brian is going to come through here, probably draw the first shield from this Typhlosion. They do have another shield left over, and because Toxapex is so slow to getting to charge moves, I have not been able to reach another move before they have reached yet another Thunder Punch against us. Incinerate even is starting to add up. They throw back-to-back moves, and I know now the switch clock is up. I've used both my shields. I'm expecting a swap out right now, so we both swap at the exact same time. I catch the move on our superior, and now I need to be very careful on how I play this out. I need to always have energy on my superior so I can throw 2 Aerial Aces against that Typhlosion later on this game, and as long as I have energy for that Typhlosion, I can knock them out with the charge move. I need to draw another shield here, so after I get this farm down, potentially, I should be able to have 2 Aerial Aces or be able to swap out, go for a Brine with our Toxapex. The worst case scenario is I give a Typhlosion an uncontested farm down. They have 2 Thunder Punches in the backline for a Toxapex, and somehow we lose this game. In comes yet another charge move here, Power Whip, not quite enough to KO us, and in comes our charge move here when they bring in that Typhlosion. This is fantastic right now. This Aerial Ace should draw the shield. They are 1 away from another Thunder Punch at this point. We can go for the Poison Jab here, be safe, throw the Brine, and now just fast move down the rest of that Ferrothorn. And despite the fact it was going to be a very hard counter game, they made that one as close as possible. Next matchup, Superior up against another Abomasnow. I hate this lead so much. It's a very annoying matchup, but if they stay in for just a second with our Kingdra, it gets close to putting them into range where I can knock them out with an Aerial Ace with our Superior later on, and if that is the case, this should be a lot better for us. Weather Ball this time coming through, so not going to be an Icy Wind. They come in with a Kingdra, so I'm going to have to go for the Outrage. Luckily, I do reach it just in time before getting fast moved down, but this is still looking pretty awkward because Kingdra does have quite a bit of bulk to it because this is the non-Shadow. With that said, I can still bring in my Toxapex here, knowing that because of that Abomasnow lead, it likely doesn't have much play in the backline because Toxapex is going to be either against a Mudboy, maybe an Electric type, so I want to use my Superior with a shield advantage to use Aerial Aces against that Abomasnow, and then use Frenzy Plants against whatever the final Pokemon is. Probably a very bad play. I should have probably gone for the Sludge Wave here, but Brian coming through, they do opt to let it go. I wanted to get a Vine Whip down, but our opponent opted to swap out right now. I should have just gone for Sludge Wave, just guarantee the knockout there. If that Kingdra can get to a move in the backline, then I have made a massive mistake. We'll have to see, though, what's going to happen this game, but after that damage I got with my Dragon Breaths against this Abomasnow, you can see they're in range where Vine Whips plus that Aerial Ace is basically enough to KO this Abomasnow. Hopefully they don't reach another charge move, but they do, obviously, but the third one is going to be the critical one that I cannot let them reach right now. If they are able to reach another charge attack here, we are going to lose this game because we basically get knocked out at this point, but they don't. We get a full Vine Whip down. What is the final Pokemon? That is the dream scenario. It's going to be a Unova Stunfisk, a Pokemon very weak to the grass type damage right now. I have one Frenzy Plant. It gets shielded. I have another one in just a second here. If this lands, which, I mean, they didn't catch, it should do a massive amount of damage, put them close to either Vine Whip down range or even Brine range from our Toxapex, but our opponent, very smart play. They opt to throw the charge move right before we get to the Brine. I thought I had it loaded, but we don't quite have the charge move on Toxapex, and now our opponent is going to be able to land a Mud Bomb here. Not quite enough to knock us out, but it will put us pretty low at this point to where maybe Dragon Breath from that Kingdra could, in fact, take us out in the backline. Back comes that Kingdra, but no, they actually did have an Octazooka. If I would have just thrown the Sludge Wave against this earlier in this game, I think I would have had this one. I don't know why I went for a Brine Bait. There's like no way they would have shielded that. Another huge misplay by me, but you know, sometimes it happens. Next game, a terrible lead matchup, a Charjabug in the lead, a huge core breaker here. I'm going to try to catch an X-Scissor if I can, but I know it's always going to be super random when they're going to throw. Maybe they're going to instantly throw, maybe they're going to throw after getting double up. It's going to be very hard to tell right now. They are going to be throwing after one more Volt Switch here, actually, so after 4 Volt Switches in total, very hard to know exactly when to swap. I'm going to try here to catch on the next charge move. Let's see if it's going to happen. No, this is the worst case scenario. No X-Scissor catch. They're going to get a discharge into our Toxapex now, but if their backline is weak to Superior, this could still be kind of playable for us right now. They're staying in for just a second, which is interesting. Likely means that their Charjabug is their one and only Toxapex answer. I want to keep it alive just in case we need this Pokemon in the backline. In comes a discharge. We do properly shield it up this time, and a Cradily answers our Toxapex. With that said, this Pokemon is going to be able to put us into range, or maybe one charge move could take us out after that discharge and Volt Switch damage. Sludge Wave does end up landing, does a massive amount of damage to a Cradily, and I can also reach a Brine before they can throw a charge move. This is going to be interesting. The switch clock is going to be back up in just a second here. I have energy on my Superior. I can come in, go for a Aerial Ace bait. This honestly isn't even a bait at this point. They're so low, they probably have to shield this if they don't want to lose 100 energy on Cradily, but if they can knock us out with Rock Slide plus Bullet Seed damage, they will still have a ton of energy for the backline. I have no idea what the final Pokemon is going to be this game. Well, I guess now I do. It's a Shadow Kingdra. They have energy on Cradily. This Kingdra did get a little bit of an energy lead here. Can I Dragon Breath down before a charge move? Let's see. 1 HP survive. They get the charge move off. I kind of have to shield this at this point. I have almost no HP on my Toxapex. I need to have some utility here. Luckily, Octazooka does not debuff us, but I know they have energy on that Cradily, and if they bring it back in here, I can't Dragon Breath down before they can throw it. If I could have, maybe there would have been a chance, but they still have that pretty healthy Charjabug in the backline that I don't think I'm going to be able to get through one way or another here. GG's to our opponent, but I don't think we have enough in the tank against one of the worst leads we could possibly see. All right, next matchup, what are we going to see? Superior in the lead up against a Shadow Kingdra. This is a much more manageable spot to see Kingdra in. At this point, I can go for either a Frenzy Plant or maybe an Aerial Ace Bait if I expect them to shield and make it so they're going to have to shield very early with a very squishy Pokemon. Dragon Breath is adding up against us, though. I don't really know if I want to stay in this matchup. I know that in the backline could definitely be Pokemon that Superior is very strong against, so we end up swapping to our Kingdra. I'm going to have to shield this up. This could definitely be an Outrage. It could also just be an Octazooka bait if they're going to be a Savage. No, it's going to be an Outrage. Fortunately for us, we don't get debuffed because there is no chance for an Outrage to debuff a Kingdra, and comes a Jumpuff. Kind of good to bait this out so our Superior doesn't have to deal with it, but then again, our Kingdra has to deal with it right now, which is also a very bad spot to be in, but this Dragon Breath damage and the Outrage has put them pretty low. This is an easy Poison Jab downrange here for our Toxapex. They might get a couple charge moves off against us, maybe an Aerial Ace, maybe an Energy Ball, but we can go for a full Poison Jab down here, knock them out, and maybe make it so our Superior in the backline doesn't have to deal with such a bad Pokemon. We have an energy lead on our Toxapex. We have a little bit of energy on our Superior. We don't know what the final Pokemon's going to be. Well, now we do. It's going to be a Morpeko, a Pokemon that has a lot of play into us right now. I'm going to go for the Brine, try our best to chip it down into range where we can fast move down. What do? They do opt to shield it up, and in comes our Superior. We know they don't have any moves that are going to do too much damage unless they can swap to Dark Mode. So I want to end up shield, I guess. Okay, I was making that full monologue about no shielding the first move, but I do actually opt to shield that move up, knowing that an Orwheel would do quite a bit of damage to us. They wouldn't be able to reach another move, so I shield that up just in case they wanted to snipe us down after the fact, and now Aerial Ace will knock them out here. They're not at a back-to-back charge move, so that Overfarm against that Dragonite, or the Kingdra rather, should put us into range where we have this Frenzy Plant loaded, can knock out the Morpeko, and take the game that way. GG's to our opponent. All right, next game, a Superior up against another Gastrodon. Another good lead this time. It's actually been a little bit since we've seen a Gastrodon lead. Let's see what our opponent has this time. It's actually going to be a Tentacruel in the backline. Very interesting pick. A very spicy Pokemon as well to see. Normally when you see a Water and Poison type Pokemon, you're going to see the Toxapex. With that said, I don't know what they're trying to do right now. They might be trying to bait out a Toxapex or maybe just a Mudboy. I'm going to bring in our Kingdra, knowing that unless they have Blizzard or Sludge Wave, they have almost no charge move pressure against us. And you can tell by the fact that they threw an Acid Spray that our Kingdra has a very good matchup here. I can just no-shield this next one too. Even if it's a Scald, it's probably not going to do more damage than an Acid Spray would, and an Acid Spray not enough to knock us out here. I might be able to reach an Outrage against that Gastrodon. If I can, it's going to put them very low, and because I can, it looks like here, it will also stall the switch clock just a little bit more to make it so if they are going to swap out, I can also swap out of my Superior later on this game. I don't want to let whatever the final Pokemon is get any sort of energy lead or damage against our Superior, so I'm going to come in, go for the volume of damage, and if they swap out to a hard answer, I'm going to swap out myself here to our Toxapex. Once again, a Talonflame in the backline. This is where Superior is not going to want to be. I can at least ship it down maybe into Aerial Ace range later on this game with Poison Jab damage, but these flies and these Brave Birds are very threatening to Toxapex despite the fact that we are a Water-type Pokemon and we are resisting these Incinerates. In comes the first move. Almost never would be a Brave Bird. Even if it was, that just instantly loosened the game because I could fast move them down. So that first one is always a very easy call. The second one is a bit of a tricky call. I am going to shield it up though, because at this point, I don't even really need to win this matchup. I just need to make sure that our superior can knock this out with a charge move. So this next brine is just going to be thrown as a way to draw their shield here. I can reach another brine potentially if I end up shielding and throwing on alignment, but that would be a very risky play because I don't know if they're going to catch that move. If they caught that move on their Gastron, that could have definitely been a loose condition. I'm going to overfarm here just in case they go for the catch, but no, they do end up double throwing, which means now they have no energy on Talonflame. I can knock this out with an Aerial Ace. I can either Vine Whip down or Frenzy Plant that Gastron in the back line. In comes an Aerial Ace here, and now as long as Gastron cannot knock out our superior, we should be in a very good spot. We did end up lagging a turn, unfortunately, which meant that we took 2 Incinerates rather than just 1. If we were in range where an Earth Power or Body Slam could have knocked us out, that might have mattered, but it didn't look like it did. GG's to our opponent. Next game, up against World Champ Yakai. Very spicy team so far by him. A Shadow Gyarados in lead. I love this Pokemon. It's a very cool Pokemon in this meta. With that said, Superior is actually a very strong Pokemon because Dragon Breath does almost no damage. We can outpace him very heavily and do a lot of neutral damage and draw shields even with Aerial Ace at this point. Crunch likely going to be thrown here. Crunch can get a defense drop. I'm going to shield it up just in case Crunch is going to be thrown, and we do get defense drop here, which is a little bit annoying. I'm going to go for yet another Aerial Ace bait. If they let it go at this point, though, it will do a massive amount of damage nonetheless, put them into fast move farm down range. They opt to shield it because of how squishy Gyarados is, and they are staying in for just a second when we bring in our Kingdra. I brought in Kingdra because at that point we got the defense drop. I want to keep our superior in the backline just in case we need it, and we can get a full Dragon Breath down against that Gyarados. That was a fantastic Dragon Breath down to see, especially because they end up bringing in a Litleo. This Pokemon is by no means an answer here to Kingdra. Outrage is going to do more raw damage than an Octazooka. I'm going to try to one-shot it before they can knock us out with the charge move, and their final Pokemon going to be a Shadow Quagsire. This could be a little bit unfortunate if I don't get the Outrage. I'm not going to risk the fact that I might get knocked out by the next Mudshot and just go for an Octazooka. This has a 50% chance of getting a debuff. Even if it doesn't debuff, it's going to be way too low at this point to take out our Toxapex and our superior. GG's to him, a very spicy team on his part, and honestly, I'm running this hard meta here. I kind of feel bad about that one. Next matchup going to be an Abomasnow, once again in the lead up against our Kingdra, or against our Superior rather. We're going to safe swap our Kingdra, try to chip them down with our fast move pressure into range where Aerial Ace can knock them out. Another Weather Ball user it looks like, and in comes their own Shadow Kingdra. Because they're a Shadow Kingdra, I can't quite reach the charge move here, the Outrage that is. I'm going to go for the Octazooka. They don't realize though that I don't actually have the big attack. They opt to shield up a move that would have done nothing, and it also got an attack drop against them right now, which is fantastic. They're going to throw a charge move. Almost certainly at this point, it's going to be an Outrage knowing that they are debuffed. They kind of have to do something here with this Kingdra, and we can go for a fast move pressure, maybe even get a full fast move farm down and have so much energy for the backline. We'll have to wait and see what's going to come in here. It could be the Abomasnow, but that'd be kind of crazy. It might be their third Pokemon. It is going to be the final Pokemon in this game, and now we know the full team. We've been in this situation before where there's a Quagsire and an Abomasnow. Superior could potentially win this game, but Abomasnow, if it can reach 3 Weather Balls in this matchup, can win them the game. Aerial Ace is going to come through. If it can get enough damage here to put them into Vine Whip down range, we might be in a good spot, but honestly, this is going to be such an uncomfortable farm down. They already have another charge move. Can they get to a third Weather Ball against our Superior before we get the Vine Whip down? It's going to be down to the wire. Vine Whip is resisted. 1 HP, they survive. They get the Weather Ball off. So close to winning that game. Abomasnow lead just keeps on beating us here. We're so close to beating it, but unfortunately not quite that game. GG's to them. All right, next matchup going to be a Gastron in the lead. Fantastic lead. Surely unlosable. We'll have to see what they're going to have in the backline, though. Our opponent opts to safe swap a Shadow Tentacruel, actually, this time. I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace bait. I know that they have to shield this up. It's a very squishy Pokemon. Aerial Ace is going to actually not get shielded. Interesting. I thought that was always going to get shielded, which is why I went for the bait, but our opponent making a fantastic call here and no shielding that attack. With that said, once again, Tentacruel likely has no charge move pressure against our Kingdra, but the Shadow does have a little bit more offensive pressure in general. I'm going to be forced to throw the Octazooka, which I don't really like having to throw, because now this means that they're going to be able to just farm us all the way down with their Gastron, and I'm not going to get an Outrage off this time. I should have just gone for the Frenzy Plant against that Pokemon in the lead. With that said, we're still in a decent spot where we have switch advantage. Our Superior can still line up into Gastron. I would assume another Fire type or something annoying in the backline that our Toxapex could definitely deal with. They end up getting a bit of an energy lead because the switch clocks are desynced, but I can still swap into my Toxapex before it's too late, and I have energy on our Superior, I have energy on our Toxapex, but they have a lot of energy on their Typhlosion as well. With that said, we are outside of range where we get knocked out by the Thunder Punch. I still want to shield it up. I need to get shields down from this thing so I can either Aerial Ace them or potentially knock them out with fast moves. I can go for a Brine in just a second here. I'm actually going to make a very risky play and go for a CMP against a 5-turn move, because I knew at this point they were going to be forced to throw energy right at that time. They're going to try to swap out right after that, and because I got the CMP, switch clocks are going to be resynced here. I can swap out if they swap out into my Superior. I'm going to make sure that they actually do swap out to the Gastrodon before I come in with our Superior and go for this Aerial Ace bait. Vine Whip is going to do a lot of damage, but if they can reach 2 Body Slams before we're able to reach another Aerial Ace, they might be able to have me here, because Toxapex is going to have to deal with both a Gastrodon and a bit of a Typhlosion still left over in the backline. We just barely are not able to reach that Aerial Ace, which means that now Toxapex is going to have to somehow take out this Gastrodon and also that Typhlosion. But I know Typhlosion is maybe in fast move farm down range. If Sludge Wave is enough to knock out this Gastrodon, it does a little bit more raw damage than the Brine. If it can KO, there's a chance here we can fast move farm down the Shadow Typhlosion. No, it's going to be a tie, a simultaneous KO. What a way to finish off our final battle of the day. Honestly, I probably could have won that one if I just went for a Frenzy Plant in the lead there, but still, that was a very fun matchup. Our opponent playing as well as they could there to guarantee whatever they could against us. But this team was so much fun to use. I know it's a very meta lineup, but it shows that Kingdra, even if it's a non-Shadow, could definitely put in some work. I definitely still prefer the Shadow for that raw damage output, but Superior and Toxapex as well, a very strong duo. I don't see too many people using Superior right now, but this Pokemon is one of the best answers to all the water types. It has a lot of great neutral matchups, and its coverage with Aerial Ace against other grass types is very strong. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I stream my battles live basically every single day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, so if you want to see this kind of content live, please make sure to check me out there. Also, I'm going to be uploading a lot more to the channel, so if you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe. Thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.